talking about video games. Yeah! Hello everyone out there interested in video games, however interested you may be. You have found the Donkey Kong Artist Podcast. I am your host, Patrick Shanley. I'm one of your hosts, actually. And joining me, as always, is my dear friend, Edmund Arnold, and my other dear friend, Collin Codega, making his first appearance on the podcast. Hello, Collin. How are you doing?
Good. How about you, Pat?
I'm doing great. Eddie, you can speak too if you want. I don't know.
You completely defer to the white guy before me, and I'm very offended by that. On the first week, we have two white guys and then one black guy. You go to him first. I'm tweeting right now. Hey, you know what? I'm here to, just make sure we're helping out with the economic anxiety out there. So, Eddie, I'm coming for your spot. Thank you. I feel great.
Well, now that we've given an update on the state of America in 2017, we should also talk a little bit about video games. And this week we're doing something a little bit different since we have Collin on, and we have what is a poor man's panel, essentially. And poor man is very much taken in the literal sense. I don't know what your guys' salaries are. It's gonna tie into the conversation, though, how much money we make. Because I want to talk about a lot of stuff in video games and the business of video games, particularly given so many controversies that have been taking place over the last couple weeks with games like Star Wars Battlefront. Destiny's been in the news with a lot of controversy around them. There's apparently stuff going on with the new UFC game that's controversy, and most of it is coming back to microtransactions, loot boxes, and the cost of gaming nowadays at the end of 2017 as we see it. I guess I'll just start off with your guys' thoughts on it. What do you think what are your takeaways from these reports that are coming out and the outrage?
I'll let the guests go. Yeah, I mean, it's, I did not expect we would be dealing with something like this right now. If you would have asked me a couple years ago when, I forget what the first game was. I think it was like, some sort of like $5 horse armor that came out for like, Oblivion or Skyrim that started it all, but it's, gamers are angry, they're mad, and they're not happy with what's going on, but at the same time, development of video games is getting extremely expensive, so, I don't know, I think we're going to be talking about this for a long time. And I think, like, where it all started, and it's where, like, the biggest perpetrator of it right now is EA, right, with the Madden packs, and I think we can go back to FIFA packs, the Ultimate Teams, and a lot of people are putting in money to be the best on there, and they get players based on how much money you basically, or how much time you put into it. So that's what really just exploded, right? And then you start to see it leak into other games. And like Collin said, it's surprising, because like 3 years ago, you didn't see it as prominent in gaming now. But I think the big issue now is that you're seeing it across every single game, across mostly every single major company. You're not seeing it in indie titles, you're not seeing it in those smaller company titles. But man, you're seeing it in Ubisoft, you're seeing it in EA, you're seeing it in, what else have you seen it in across this year? I mean, across the board. So, and it's getting to the point where it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. And I think that's why you're seeing so much anger from the gaming community now.
And it seems like it's really just exploded in 2017. I mean, like we touched on it, it's been going on for a couple years. But even the early half of 2017 did not have it the way that we have seen just in the last 3-4 months, with humongous titles that people have been looking forward to for years in certain cases. And it is affecting the gameplay and, let's call it what other people have been calling a lot, the fairness of these games. If you're doing things where it is pay to win, which is the greatest sin that you can make as a video game, as we saw with the Star Wars controversy, it is understandable to me that there is some outrage on a lot of these issues. And there's also the problem of gambling with these loot boxes, which is coming up more and more.
Right. And, we touched on it a couple of weeks ago with, I don't have a big issue with it as long as it's behind cosmetic items, but like you said, it's getting more and more to be the point where you're paying to basically be better than the other players, and that's where it's bad. And did you see that? I can't remember that news story this week that came out where the country basically condemned Battlefront 2 for its gambling. Yeah, I mean, it's actually China. They force Dota, League of Legends, like all games, they have to show a percentage. So if you're going to buy a loot box, it's going to say, oh, you have a 17% likelihood of getting a rare drop. Or, oh, you have a 5% chance. So at least people, if they're going to pour their money into it, they know the odds. It's just like when I go and play blackjack, when I go back home to Reno, I know the house is stacked to win, but at least I know my odds when I go to the table and I throw my money down.
Right. How often are you playing blackjack, Colin?
You know what? I don't play that much anymore, but after college, it was a little easy to go to the tables after graduating.
And now you don't need to because you can just play video games.
I can just turn on my Xbox and throw a bunch of money at that. Yeah, it's so much easier now.
What a time to be alive. Here's my problem with what we were just saying and why it's considered gambling. If I want to spend my money in a video game to buy something, why am I getting why is it a percentage drop? Why am I not just buying whatever cosmetic I want to buy with my money? Why do I have to spin a wheel to decide what am I getting out of it? If you want my money, take it. Don't charge me on the off chance that I might get something that I want. That's manipulative, and that's trying to wring money out of people on something I already own. I own your game. I bought it.
They found the key to it, right? Like, they found the key, because if you put up a 20-piece armor, or a $20 armor piece, I'm gonna put up that $20 to get that armor piece. But if you're hiding it behind a loot box, I'm gonna put it up like $20 to $100 in order to find it, because it's a random roll every time. And I spoke earlier, like Belgium is actually the country that took a step towards banning like these battlefronts and these type of loot boxes.
Way to go, Belgium.
Way to go, Belgium. We applaud you. And Belgian Minister of Justice, Collin Green's ad, mixing gambling and gaming, especially at a young age, is dangerous for the mental health of the child. And I absolutely agree with this. Because a lot of times you're putting these kids in front of these games. Their parents sometimes will have the credit card already loaded to the game. The parents don't have access to it, right? So these kids are just going after these loot boxes. And like we talked about last week with Jack Black, he comes up to home to a, $2,000, $3,000 credit card bill. And this is why it's so dangerous. And this is why we need to take steps in order to halt this whole entire process.
I mean, imagine you're not Jack Black. You know, I wasn't in Shallow Hal. I don't have Shallow Hal money. Like, if my kid spent $3,000, well, I guess we might not pay rent that month.
Yeah, and if you call up like Sony or you call up Microsoft and be like, hey, my kid did this, you can dispute the transaction maybe with your bank or something like that, but yeah, there's a high likelihood you're not getting that money back, as maybe some single parent out there. I know Apple had to put a lot of measures into the iPhone because kids were running up money on I don't even know, like Clash of Clans or something like that. Yeah, it's insane. It's way too easy and it's way too quick.
And it's large amounts of money, which we talked about this a little bit last week too. But these are not. It's not always a 99-cent purchase. You can buy things that are $99 with a click of one button.
Right, absolutely. And like Collin said, it's way too easy and it's way too quick. I'm going to tell a personal story here. People don't judge me, all right? I have stayed away from NBA 2K series for the longest time, and I told people it's because I don't like watching basketball. The real reason is I will put hundreds and hundreds and $100 behind this virtual currency. And it got to a point in college where I had 2K games where I was putting most of my money that should have been going to food into virtual currency in order to make my player better so it would be a more enjoyable experience. So stupid. But I liked, if you play games like me, you like that feeling of seeing your player go from a 75 to an 80 and to see your player completely dominate on the court. I had a huge problem where I had to step away from the 2K series. Recently, I got back into the 2K series, and guess what I did? I'm putting money in the virtual currency to make my player better, and it's a problem. And
I mean, to play devil's advocate, just to throw this out there, is someone now that I've gotten older, I'm working from, 8 in the morning until 5 at night. I commute an hour each way to work. When I get home, there's sometimes I feel like you can find a balance because MLB The Show, I love that game. Mm-hmm. If there's a sale on stubs and I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what, I can throw $5 into this. I can level up my player or, my Road to the Show character a little bit quicker, and I can actually see parts of the game I want to see, where I get to the major leagues, where I can't grind out a character like I used to back in the day, back when I was in college or I had summer. So, I don't know, I feel like there's a middle ground almost where there needs it, like, gamers are obviously putting their foot down on the issue, mm-hmm. but there has to be some sort of middle ground we can find.
Well, I think what you just said is really important because it goes back to what we were saying about the gambling issue. If you want to spend $5 of your dollars, which you have to spend on this and decided to use it, well, then you should know what your $5 are buying you. That's my issue and what I think a lot of people's issues are with this. I don't want to spend $5 and spin a wheel hoping to get Giancarlo Stanton, and I'm stuck with... I can't think of a crappy baseball player who isn't on the Yankees, and I don't want to bash the Yankees. But, some crappy player, probably a Dodger.
Yeah, definitely a Dodger. Definitely a Dodger.
No, and you make a good point, Pat. It's a fact that it's hidden. Like, you're right. You're absolutely right. We need to take a step back, and we need to, like, if you're going to put $20 into a chess piece, you're going to buy that chess piece. I don't know why I keep bringing up a chess piece, but I'm thinking of, like, Star Wars Battlefront. Like, if you want to buy a specific star card, you should be able to put money into a star card without having to put in all this money to unlock all these star cards, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I think it absolutely makes sense. And the biggest issue I have outside of, the seediness of hiding gambling is that these things are entertainment. That's their number one purpose. It's why they exist. What is fun about this? Is it fun to do this gambling for hats in a video game?
I don't know. I almost think that it's a larger issue with game companies needing to keep users active. They want to keep money in. They want to maximize shareholder, stakeholder profits. And to keep their servers online, they have to keep bringing money in. I don't know. It's tough because I'm so annoyed with how much I spend on video games. But there's a part that almost wonders, would we be better off if we just made video games $65 and then just had no paid DLC and just charged a little bit extra and just upfront?
Yeah, just charge 80.
Or 80 or 70 bucks, like,
90, yeah.
bump it up and just, like, say, you know what, like, but then at the same time, you have $20, $25 games coming out these days, like PUBG's coming out for Xbox, which I'm really excited about to play that in the next couple weeks, but, yeah, it's, I don't know, it's all about, it all comes down to money, keeping people active, and, and then it's really tough.
Wasn't that the issue, then? Like, so... I play a lot of classic games. When you bought a classic game, the game was the game. That was it. That was the game. You bought it. It was done. There wasn't going to be more content that was coming out for something that you already owned that you would have to buy. I personally, look, this might not be a popular opinion, and clearly I'm wrong because the tide is turning in the opposite direction. I would rather buy a game and have that game be done. I don't need to keep adding things on to the game that I already own. If that was the case, I would rather just buy a new game, and I would rather the studio that made that game spend their time crafting a sequel or another game in that series further on, or working on a new project, as opposed to just tacking little things on for $15 here, $20 there, onto a game I already owned.
Yeah, but those are single-player experiences.
That's what I want.
The way that's what you want.
Exactly.
But according to EA and according to these big companies, nobody wants single-player experiences anymore, which is kind of strange to me because I still like single-player experiences. I hear you still like single-player
Zelda Breath of the Wild was a single-player experience, and it's the most successful game of the year.
Was a single-player experience, and you would sacrifice with a single-player experience. We can go on all day.
Right.
But like, you're right. Back in the day, we used to get a single-player game, would be released, and it would be done. But everything's multiplayer now. Everything had the multiplayer component to it. I spent half of my morning talking about The Witcher 3 with my roommate and how great it was. And we were just talking about Cyberpunk 2077 and when it's coming out. I look online, it has a multiplayer component to it. So it's like you can't get away from any games of service. And like Collin said, what type of games are going to keep people playing longer? Multiplayer games with open servers that are going to keep you coming back for these more items. To collect more items, to get more guns, to get more accessories, things like that. Single-player experiences, you can't make that much money off of anymore.
So is that the issue then? Are we just looking at this like purely economical? It's just like any other type of art, I guess, right? It starts off as something that a whole bunch of artists are attracted to, and that it was making art for the sake of making art. And now, because there's shareholders involved and there's so much money that can be squeezed out of a game, that the games themselves are starting to suffer from it, and the entire industry kind of sucks a little bit more now than it used to, as far as the products that you're paying for.
Capitalism 101. I mean, it's just, that's the way of the grind, and that's the way the gaming company is. And back in the day when games were people were laughing at it, and it was just like niche company, it wasn't making a big money, and then it was only in arcades and its dark, seedy parts of the cities. Now you see commercials during the Super Bowl. Now people what was it? What were we talking about a couple weeks ago? Like Call of Duty was outpacing movie, or what were we talked about at the very beginning of the year, our podcast. Video game sales were outpacing movies now.
Exponentially, by quite a bit they are.
It's a big money industry. So these stakeholders, like Collin said, these stakeholders took a hold of it, and it's all money now. It's all money, and that's the way of the world. That's the way it's going. Well,
imagine being like an investor these days. It's like times are shifting with just technology in general. If I have a bunch of money, back in the day, it'd be like, I could get involved with movies or this form of art entertainment or media. Now, with like how interconnected, and you can send a message to a person in the blink of an eye. Like my phone on Thanksgiving literally was blown up with emails of Thanksgiving marketing. It's direct to consumers. In video games, I can wake up, turn on my Xbox, and if I turn on the next video game, Madden can put up an Old Spice commercial on the loading screen while I'm about to play my online game. Like, it's insane how quickly they can just throw it at, and it's very profitable, and they're just going to continue to figure out ways to monetize that if people keep paying and giving them the money. They're not going to stop. Why would you stop if you're, people keep doing it?
Yep, and I agree with you, and I actually don't even blame the companies. I blame the consumers, which... Okay, let's pin this down, because I think we can all agree on this. Are games not... Are big games, are major studio games not as good as they used to be even something like 5-6 years ago on launch? When you buy a launch title, are you happy with the games as much as you were 5-10 years ago when you bought them?
They're releasing broken games. None of the games are finished. That's why we have 30 gigabyte day one patches now.
Right.
It's insanity. Back in the day, you get a game, you wouldn't have a patch. You just have to. Mind you, would be a lot of bugs, and sometimes the game you get to some parts of the game where it'd just be broken, and you have to start it all over. It was
certainly
rare.
not Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, but it's a great point. All the Assassin's Creeds, not Origins, but like look at that Paris Assassin's Creed that no one played. It was a debacle, and they didn't fix that game until a year later.
Well, I mean, it's just like the video game industry is a lot different, though, because now, back then, it was that format that Patrick's really missing, where you would make one game, a single player experience, craft it, send it out, it's gold, and then you start creating the follow-up. Nowadays, it's game engines where it's like Call of Duty, they're pumping out a new version every single year, and they're using the same blueprint for 3, 4, 5 years. It's still almost the same amount of years, but they're having to churn out more and more versions of it. It's just, it's like the joke with Destiny 1.5. That's what people call Destiny 2. It's, the same framework.
Yeah. Let me ask a question. Sorry to take your role, Pat, but
how dare you?
Did this have to do with the explosion of cell phone games? Is that where we saw this shift into more basically just try to pump money out of one single game experience as much as possible? Because I feel like Clash of Clans.
Mm-hmm.
What was
Farmville.
Farmville. Yeah, Clash of Clans, Farmville. Even Minecraft to a certain extent on the PC.
Candy Crush.
Candy Crush. Yeah, is that where we saw the explosion of just money in the one game?
So
Cosmetics, this, that. I don't know where it started. That's where my question is.
I'm going to answer your question with a simple affirmative yes, I do think that, and I've said that certain times. And I'm also going to follow it up with a really bougie, annoying I Live in Hollywood story. A few weeks ago, this is months ago now, I guess, and I'm not, this isn't a disparaging story about him, it's just going to paint him in a bad light because of the previous conversation. But I went to Jam City. Jam City makes, they make the Family Guy mobile game, they made a Futurama mobile game. And they're mobile games. They're fine. They're whatever they are. A lot of people like them. They're fun. And they do microtransactions, as most of these games do. I met the CEO of Jam City. His name is Chris DeWolf. He was a nice enough guy. He is one of the founders of MySpace. He's a co-founder with Tom, the guy who sat in front of that stupid whiteboard and had a dumb look on his face.
Sorry, Tom. Friend on MySpace. Don't talk about him, dude.
How dare you? Anyway, so I was talking to Mr. DeWolf, and he was talking about what attracted him to games, let alone, he's probably in his 50s, late 40s, I don't want to age the guy. But, he grew up kind of with video games, but not in the same way like our generation did. And he looked at it as a business decision to get into games, and we talked about a little bit about microtransactions. And this isn't new, but it is funny to hear it from somebody directly from the source. That 2%, 1%, whatever it is, of the people who play the games are the people who pump most of the money into these mobile games with microtransactions. Most people don't really spend that much money. If they do, it's like $1 to $5 every so many months. A big portion of people never spend any money at all in the games, but this one little percentage spends so much that they're able to make this massive business. And this place prints money, Jam City. They make crazy money on little mobile games. And I think a lot of big studios like EA looked at that, and they're like, these people make these tiny games, aren't employing a third of the people that we employ, and are making more money than us. How do we get into that business?
I think that's spot on. It's the whales out there. Those people that are, it's like that South Park episode.
Exactly.
They literally have a full-on episode about this. And the thing is, too, any functioning, well-running business is going to know exactly all the data, all the statistics on these people, so they know exactly what they're doing when they're pumping this out. They know exactly what users are buying, what percentages, and you know what, though? That is the most profitable format they can find right now. Because they're able to, and people are able to. Like, it's pretty sad.
We're letting a small percentage of the most privileged in gaming control the entire landscape of our community, of our basically things we've grown up to.
Right.
And when has that ever worked? When has ever a small percentage of really rich elite controlling something ever worked out in favor for anything? I just got to put that question out there.
Well, then I will answer that question with this question, which I think is the answer of it. If that is the case, and we seem to all be in agreement on this, why are people buying games at launch if they know all of these things going into it? Why are you paying $60, $70 for a game if you know that you're going to be charged more for the finished game afterwards? Why not just wait a month? Why not wait 2 months? Or buy it in a bargain bin at a GameStop?
Because we all live in the moment. We are all a right now society. Everything is what's the hottest game? What are people tweeting about? You want to be able to have your hot take on this game, and everyone will play for a week or two, and then people move on to the next game.
Then lo, God said to Abraham, you brought this evil upon yourself.
Well, I do have to say, in contrast to that, times are a-changing. Because look at the way people reacted to Battlefront 2. EA lost $3 billion in stock because of the way that the fans and consumers reacted to Battlefront 2. Mind you, as an EA company, and gamers really hate EA, so it'd be interesting to see, and I didn't see them react to the same way that they did to EA as they did Call of Duty, and I think Call of Duty hides some of this stuff behind loot boxes, and then Colin can correct me because I haven't played Call of Duty, but I'm pretty sure they did, not to the same extent, but I'm pretty sure they did the same thing.
Well, Call of Duty put it on Mountain Dew cans, which is pretty smart because, I mean, who doesn't want a Mountain Dew?
Well,
You gotta do the do when you're gonna play some Call of Duty.
Code Red too, by the way. Don't forget that. It was only Code Red.
Send us money, Mountain Dew.
But yeah, anyway, shit, I forgot what I was going to say. Thanks a lot, Pat. I forgot what I was
Sorry,
saying.
guys.
Oh, but yeah, so they lost $3 billion because people put their foot down, took to Reddit, took to Twitter, which is annoying, but whatever. This is the way we protest these days. And they said, we're not buying this game. So, and you saw it across the landscape. Shareholders heard it. EA heard it. They're trying to rectify all the mistakes they made. They're not really doing well. You saw the same thing with Destiny. It blew up Destiny publishers on Reddit, and now Destiny's coming back, and they're changing some of their aspects that they came out with the game, that was launched with the game. So I think people are starting to speak up more, and I do think the landscape is changing a little bit. We'll see. We'll continue to have to see. 2018 is going to be a wild year. It's going to be a wild year.
Yeah, I mean, EA, that was, I mean, with Battlefront 2, it was pretty gross what was thrown out there, but they lost $3 billion in stock value because of it. Their stock was hit $3 billion. It's nuts. It's insane, but that's the way you will get publishers and developers to change their habits, is hit them in the wallet. And, yeah, and I don't know, I'm curious of what you both, I'm not sure if you've talked about this yet, but how the developers, people, I think, I'm not sure if it was Disney, but were actually worried about cosmetics being available in Battlefront 2, and they were worried. They didn't want to see they were like, well, how would people react if a pink Darth Vader was running around the battlefield?
Yeah, I believe, I can't remember his name, but EA's executive was basically like, Battlefront's lore is so delicate that we can't add something to the extent of a pink Darth Vader suit, where they have Kylo Ren and Darth Vader running around on Tatooine on a multiplayer map. So it's like, I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all.
Let me just say that again is a result of the people. Like, a lot of this is coming from... It's coming from public reaction. And the reason why they'd be hesitant to put that is because public reaction would probably cause that to be. People
remember Battlefront 1, where they gave you all those options to run around with your Stormtrooper's helmet off, and people were like, no, absolutely not.
Yep.
So, you're absolutely right. It's public reaction. People react to certain things. Companies respond to it, and people are like, still, wait a minute.
Right.
So, you're absolutely right.
Well, now we're seeing the other side of a coin that we just brought up. And I'm saying all these things. I don't have the answers to any of these things. I'm just pointing out.
We don't.
Yeah.
We're not experts in the gaming community or anything like that.
I'm not an expert in any community, trust me. But what we're seeing is that it's great that a public outcry can change things, and we're seeing that it can change things significantly. It can have a $3 billion effect on a massive company. At the same time, public reaction can also do things where people lose their mind if a stormtrooper doesn't have his helmet off. Or it can do a lot of worse things, too, like doxing people and, what was that thing about Reddit where they found the wrong guy who was the Boston bomber or something like that? Like, public outcry can also do lots of awful things. Yeah, I don't have an answer. I'm just saying that it does both.
Female video game developer out there right now, like, yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So it's it's a double-edged sword.
I think what it comes down to is the theme of this is the outcry that really creates change in a positive way for gamers. It seems like is the economic outcry.
Yeah,
where you just don't give people your money.
Yeah,
it's that old adage: vote with your wallet. Well, if it's actually working, then keep doing it. I'm not saying this as a rallying cry because obviously people are already doing this. So, like, I'm not somebody who's telling you to. I'm telling you to continue doing it, but obviously you don't need me to tell you to do it. What are we gonna see? What's EA do after this? After you take that much of a write down, what's their next game? Is it going to be completely different, or are they going to try and do the same crap again?
No, because UFC 3 was just announced with a whole bunch of loot box attachments to it, and people are already complaining about it. So, is EA going to learn from it? So it's up to the consumers. Like, if you didn't go out and buy Wolfenstein, you should shoot yourself, in my opinion. Because Wolfenstein it's a single-player game release, no DLC attached to it. Well, there's going to be but story DLC is going to be attached to it. No cosmetics, nothing like that, and it's a great game. Go pick up Wolfenstein rather than picking up Battlefront 2. Go buy Horizon rather than picking up Call of Duty. You can support these titles that aren't doing it, but you're not. Well, people did buy Horizon, so I'm a little wrong there. But people aren't, for the most part, supporting these titles, and that's where the issue is.
Dude, scroll through, if you're listening to us on SoundCloud, scroll down and just look at the people that we've had on our show, from Tacoma, people from Pyre, people from Little Nightmares. These small indie games, which are really great games, if people start buying more of these things where they're not trying to pump in microtransactions, maybe it'll send a bigger message to higher-ups, too. Yeah, it's not a one-time thing. It's not you don't buy one game and then the issue is solved. You don't buy any of their games if they keep trying to do the same crap, and you buy better games made by independent studios. Or a big studio that's not doing this crap. It doesn't have to be an independent studio. I would like it if the big studios also weren't doing this stuff.
Yeah, because you do have certain, like, Beshida's not Beshida, but what is it?
Bethesda.
Bethesda, I don't know why I can't ever say that company right. They don't do it to this extent, right? And they still release quality games without hiding it behind a bunch of loot boxes and DLC or anything. So you still have your major companies that are still doing it.
Nintendo.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Nintendo. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was just released this week. I'm having a great time. There's nothing tied behind that. There's no loot boxes, no DLC tied behind that game.
I mean, both of those companies do usually, like, lately they have been going the DLC route. So it almost seems like you're leaning towards the DLC route. You think that's the best solution.
If it's story DLC, yeah.
Right. If it's story, okay.
Like, I'm thinking in terms of, like, and I know if you listen to our podcast, I bring them up a lot. In terms of Grand Theft Auto 4, I think that's a perfect release cycle. You release the full game. That game was complete. Nico's story was complete. And then you release 3 side story DLCs that are telling different stories that are related to that world. To me, that as a cycle, that game was perfect from start to finish. And then you add that online component, which absolutely ruined Grand Theft Auto 5 for me. But to me, I'm going to go buy Grand Theft Auto 4. If you stay upon that, if you want to release cosmetics behind pay, I'm all for that. The way Overwatch does it. If you want to pay for, like, a Hanzi to have a cool, like, bell-bottom suit, I don't know where I came up with that, then go ahead and pay for that. As long as it's cosmetics. But if you're hiding it behind star cards or, like, things that add to your character to make them better, that's terrible. Absolutely terrible. And it needs to be gone, in my opinion.
I agree. I don't know how anyone could not think that. I can understand why a studio would think that when they were making the game to make more money out of it. But I think that's exactly what it should be. I don't think that there should be... This might be a little soapboxy, but this is what I think. I don't think any game that has microtransactions, especially ones that are hiding behind a gambling system, should even be allowed to charge for DLC. You're already printing that money. Where is that money going to? What, to just coffer your salary that year? Well, why am I giving you more money if you've already been pumping money out of people using a gambling mechanic?
Yeah, I mean, one game to call out personally that over the last year or two, I haven't played it recently, but Respawn, who made Titanfall 2, I think they did a really, really nice job. They did all maps, all game modes that were released were free, and all the cosmetics, you can buy stuff. But then there also is some sort of loot box system, but it's strictly cosmetic, and you can pay for individual items and kind of handpick stuff. So I thought they did a really nice job on balancing that.
Guess who just bought that company? Guess who just bought that publisher?
Yay!
Yay! Well, wait, no, that's not good.
We hear a lot of the companies comment. We hear a lot of the big names of EA. We don't ever hear the publishers or the people behind the games talk about this at all. I would like to hear more of their opinions. And I don't know if they have to sign disclosure agreements where they can't talk to press about things like this, but it'd be interesting to hear their take on it because they're the actual people working on it.
Yeah, maybe let's just say anecdotally on our own podcast. It's when we reach out to an independent game, and this makes sense, obviously, because the person who's running an independent studio is probably also the game director, but it is really easy to talk to a game director of a small game or somebody who actually made the game themselves. When we have these bigger games, it's generally not the game director that we're speaking to. We have a couple times with Far Cry and with Call of Duty, but most of the time I'm talking to either a producer or a studio head or somebody who does marketing for a game. It is very rare that we are getting somebody who is the actual game director of a huge market game. Otherwise we'll get the star, which also has value, but it's a much different thing than talking to the director of these big games.
Absolutely, and I agree with you. We need to start focusing more on our indies. We got kind of away from that.
Well, it's hard, and I also want to talk about big AAA titles, especially ones I'm excited about. I'm just saying the artistry seems to be a little bit less. Same in Hollywood, I guess. Would you rather talk to a Michael Bay or would you rather talk to a Wes Anderson?
Wes Anderson?
Eddie, do you know who Wes Anderson is?
Yes, he did that movie with Danny Glover.
Oh yeah, didn't he do the movie
the Royal
with
Tenenbaums?
He did the movie with the Cub Scouts or something like that.
Moonrise Kingdom was one of my favorite movies of 2016.
I'm sorry, the Royal Tenenbaums, and the person you took out of it was Danny Glover, who's in 2 scenes.
Yeah, because he's black, so I resonate with black people, alright? I'm sorry, this is the way I am.
Hey, I love Danny Glover, man. Lethal Weapons are my favorite movies.
Hey, I love Moonrise Kingdom, okay?
It's a good movie.
I love that movie.
Shout out Predator 2.
I'm so off topic, I'm so lost.
We do this a lot, Colin, sorry.
Sounds about right.
This is where the editing comes in, yeah. Alright, that was a very heavy conversation. Colin was crying for a lot of it. I'm sorry, Colin.
I'm emotionally scarred, thanks guys.
It's just like high school.
It's all over again. I'm having flashbacks.
Let's make it a little bit lighter and make Colin feel a little bit better. Because it's Christmas time, you guys, and Christmas time is the most wonderful time of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
Especially if you're a gamer, because this is when I get most of my games, I feel like.
Yeah.
I kind of cash out at the end of the year, because I'm a man-child. What are you guys looking forward to? What do you want underneath your Christmas tree? Or what are you going to give underneath somebody else's Christmas tree?
So myself, I'm buying my nephew a hard drive. He needs that extra external space so he can play some more games. This is a good time of the year because I like to clear out my backlog. Nintendo Switch has had a wonderful year, so I'm going to try to clear out, get these Nintendo Switch games beat, specifically Zelda. I did beat Super Mario, so I'm still collecting those Power Moons. I just picked up Xenoblade Chronicles, which sounds like it's going to be another life for me, so there's a lot of games, and I still got to beat Prey, I got to beat Yakuza, I got to beat Persona, I got to beat my Japanese games of the year. I mean, this was a good year of games. Good year of games. There's some PC games that were released that I want to play still. I want to check out Battle Chef Brigade that came out this week, which I've been hearing great things. It's like a puzzle 2D platformer brawler, which is insane to me, and I like those 3x3 puzzle games, so I'm going to pick that up. So I don't know where to stop, man. There's just games everywhere. PlayStation, Nintendo Switch, Xbox. There's games everywhere. So, I don't know. It's just a lot of, taking time off, closing my door, staying away from my family, beating Horizon. You
gotta beat it. You gotta beat it, man.
Yeah, isn't that good?
It's so good.
When you said closing yourself off in a room and then said the word beating, I was like, I don't know if we can say this.
Beating Horizon, alright? Beating Horizon, Zero Dawn. I want to beat that game. Because I got through, the beginning and then it slowed down for me. These open world games are hard for me to, put hours into because there's so much to do in them, and I get distracted.
I feel that way, too. I almost feel overwhelmed by them.
Yeah.
The older I get, It's funny. I actually, as I was just a week or two ago, I started up Wolfenstein. Great game, by the way. But I just decided to throw it on casual mode. Well, one, the normal mode, from what I hear, is just way too hard. So hard. Like, I hear it's just like the ramp up in that game's ridiculous. But I want to see a game start to finish. I don't have the time I used to. Now, luckily, we have the holidays coming up. But like for that game, I threw it on casual, and I'm so glad I'm doing that because I'm actually seeing the story.
Yeah, and the story's worth seeing. Especially that middle section of Wolfenstein is like one of the best, probably my favorite gaming moments of the year. It's like that middle portion of Wolf. I can't even give away. We probably should have like in a couple weeks like our favorite gaming things of the year or something like that.
Yeah, I think we'll do like a wrap up.
Yeah, like a spoiler heavy podcast. But yeah, that Wolfenstein game from start to finish. And I did the same thing. I bumped it down to casual just so I could beat it. It was something else.
You guys are a PlayStation household, correct?
PlayStation, and Collin recently just joined the Xbox family.
I did. I joined the Xbox family. Came up on a deal and got the One S. So I don't 4K game. I don't have a 4K TV. Not really interesting me right now. But so I'm all covered. I got a Switch also.
What have you been playing on the Xbox?
Xbox, I've been playing actually Gears of War 4. I've been picking up cheap games basically for it because I have a pretty solid catalog on my PS4. But Gears of War 4, I've been playing the multiplayer on that. It's pretty fun. And actually, I got a game that's in game preview mode. It's Subnautica.
I love that game.
It is so much fun, just exploring around. I'm not doing the survival mode where you have to like drink and eat, but basically, people haven't played it. It is a underwater. You crash on an alien underwater planet, and you have to basically just survive and gain resources and build an underwater sea lab. It's awesome.
It sounds dope. If we're talking about survival games right now, I also want to shout out A Long Dark. I think it's on Xbox right now. It is a game where essentially you crash land in like the wilderness, like a snowy wilderness, and it is like one of those early access survival games. But for me, I got into it last weekend. I think I put like 10 hours over the weekend. You are just out there. You need to find like supplies. You need to know how to make fire. You know, like find shelter. You got to drink. You got to like boil your water. It's
a Liam Neeson simulator. What it's like to be Liam Neeson.
Yeah, and those wolves will mess you up, just like they messed up William Neeson. So yeah, it's fantastic.
These survival games are getting nuts, where I feel like I'm almost putting so much thought into it, I might as well just go walk into the woods and go survive.
And I love them. Like specific, and I think I started with the Skyrim mod where you have to drink, eat, and rest. And after I played that, I'm a sucker for these survival games. I love them.
Almost as fun as actually surviving in the wilderness.
Almost. Have you ever tried to survive in the wilderness? We're on the Bay Area, baby. Nothing but wilderness out here.
Concrete jungle.
I just imagine you, like, hiking from one wine and cheese shop to another one. You're like, are we going to make
You know how hard that is, dude? You know how many, like, smiles and waves you have to, like, avoid?
How many drum circles and, like, protest marches you get stuck in on your way?
Hey, you know what, Patrick? You do not understand what it's like to deal with walking around San Francisco where you have to worry about bumping into people that are busy curling their mustache with their mustache. So, you know what? It's tough out in these streets.
Yeah, you can't say anything coming from the cesspool that you live in right now.
Hey, all right.
Our managers don't lock us in the offices. Thank you very much.
If you can find one disparaging story about Hollywood, I would like to see it.
Yeah, I'm coming up with. I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, I don't know anything going on in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, well, it's a great place.
I'm just trying to get off this Hollywood shit as fast as possible.
Yeah,
so, what are you playing?
Right now, I am playing. I haven't really played much other than working my way through Final Fantasy IX for like the 18th time. I tried to play Destiny 2 because so many people were upset about it. I wanted to see what the problem was because I loved Destiny 2 when I played it. And it's sort of just the same thing, except the servers crash all the time, which is annoying for me. I'm still playing Rime. Did anybody else play Rime, which sounds like a game in which you play an orange peel that's trying to escape from a garbage can? But it's
Explain it to us.
Sorry, what?
Explain it to us.
Rime is a delightful game. It is sort of in the vein of like Shadow of the Colossus or Ico, and you are a small Greek boy. He looks Greek. He has like a tunic on. And you wash up on the shore of a deserted island, and you are following the lead of a ghost fox and trying to track down a mysterious figure in a shrouded red cloak. And it's sort of like just doing puzzles. There's no enemies. It's a really relaxing game. It's just windswept island vibes. It's good. It's good for me. After a stressful day of writing about sexual harassment. Like? The puzzles are super easy, which is the problem. I mean, it's not a challenging game at all. It's more just like a therapeutic, relaxing game. The puzzles are like drop this ball into this little ball receptacle, a ball hole, if you will. And then it lights up another part of the island, and then they kind of clink together, and then it opens up a new area of the island that you can go and explore and tackle pigs.
Whoa, so I had not heard of this. This is like a new release, too?
No, it came out this summer. You haven't heard of Rhyme?
No, not much.
I'm so happy that I know of a game that you don't know about.
Hey, it actually just came out for the Switch.
I think I might pick it up for the Switch then.
You should indeed. You can beat it.
It's like a perfect Switch game. And the art style, I mean, just like the heavy like white and blue and gray colors, it looks really cool.
It's a beautiful, really fun little game. You can beat it, honestly, in like 3 hours.
What's the fox? Is it like your buddy?
Sort of. He's like your guide. He's like your spiritual spirit guide.
Okay. All right. You still haven't picked up a PS4 yet?
I haven't, no. I'm hoping for Christmas time.
All right. Very upset with you. Make sure you pick that up for Christmas.
Frankly, I want a Switch more than a PS4.
I would buy a Switch because there are a lot more games on there that I think you would like more.
I just want Zelda.
Oh, Zelda.
Dude, you would probably like Xenoblade too. I think you would like Xenoblade too. It's one of those it feels like it's an RPG pulled straight from the PlayStation 2.
Oh, I love that. Japanese games are my games.
It's systems in it, it takes forever to get anything done because it's packed up behind menus and menus and menus. But essentially, did you play Final Fantasy X? Was that the first? No, not Final Fantasy X. What was the Final Fantasy 15? I'm sorry,
I haven't played 15. No.
Okay, so it's similar. It's like you don't actually have to hit X over and over again. It's like all you do is draw your weapon, and then you do like a variety of three moves, three combinations. But then you have these special moves that you have to link into your combinations. And the combat system is very engaging. You're controlling 3 party members, and they have like these, essentially like they're called blades, and they're like Pokemon, familiars, except yours is like super hot, which is kind of weird. But
what?
So, it's so hard to explain because when everyone was telling me, they're like, "Oh, it's like Pokemon." So like one of the characters, hers is like a tiger, right? That she can ride and has like a very British like voice and is very proper. But then yours is like this scantily clad. I think she's of age. It's just weird, man. But it's fun. It's a lot of fun. But it just you're going into that weird JRPG shit.
Good, that's what I want.
That you see in a lot of video games. But yeah, I would pick up a Switch over anything.
Mario is so good also. That's one game I'm really excited when I have a few days off to put a little more time in. I just got through the kind of first ending from what I hear, which was really good. Probably about 7 or 8 hours into the game, but still have a ton of moves to collect. And it's so fun.
Do you guys share games, or do you all have your own copy of the same games?
We all have our own copies of our same games.
Me and Eddie have never shared games ever, except for once when his mom stole his NCAA basketball game and gave it to me right after he bought it. And Eddie probably didn't talk to me for a week.
That is the greatest story I've ever heard.
Yeah, she's the best. She was like, "Oh, why don't you play this?" and just gave it to me.
Yeah, she did give me my game. I forgot about it because I was bragging about having it over him, and she's like, "You know what? This is what we do in our household." And she gave it to him.
What? That's the greatest story I've ever heard. Your mom is freaking amazing.
My parents love Collin. They might like Collin more than me.
Well, I like Collin more than you. So
everyone likes Collin more than me.
That's true.
Yay!
Collin, join us next week when my guest will be Collin and not Ed.
It's a mutiny.
All right, well,
Matt, you should get PUBG.
I've never played any of those games.
It's only one game.
Oh, I thought this was like Team Fortress or something like that.
Dude, it's like the hottest thing right now.
It was actually like an Arma mod that was made by one guy named PlayerUnknown. I don't know the backstory well, but it's coming out for Xbox on early access. I'm gonna get it. It comes out in a week and a half.
I'm gonna get it too. It's literally the hottest thing ever right now.
What is it?
The hottest thing. It's like basically 24 players get dropped into an island. 100
Whoa.
get dropped into an island. Like guns are scattered everywhere. You're all unarmed, and it's everyone against everyone.
It's Battle Royale.
That sounds amazing.
It sounds
and the map closes down as the game goes on, and as it closes, it's like a blue smoke field, and you lose health if you're in it. So the map gets smaller, so it forces people to get in tighter combat areas, and it's a giant island.
Dude, it's like 100 games.
100 people, and you can run solo, so it's everyone versus each other. There can be up teams of 2 or teams of 4.
And it's for Xbox, so you can get it, and we can all run together.
We can all play.
All right, deal. Getting it.
Yeah,
and it's only $25.
Yeah.
Getting it.
And it's the hottest thing of this year.
Okay.
It surpassed the Legends for streaming numbers. It is the hottest thing of this year.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
We might have to do it again.
All right, well, thank you very much to Collin Codega, the wonderful, talented, glasses-wearing Collin Codega. Don, do you still wear glasses? I don't even know. I haven't seen your face in so long.
Yeah, it's like Stain said, it's been a while, but yeah, I still got glasses.
I wasn't going to have you back, but the Stained reference, it sealed it, and now you have to be a recurring guest.
Well, appreciate you guys having me on today.
I want to thank my wonderful co-host, Edmund Arnold, as well. Way to go, Eddie.
Thank you.
Top-notch stuff.
Yeah,
I also want to... Oh, sorry.
I'm in San Francisco anytime if anyone wants to come to see me live. I'm out here.
I also want to thank everybody for listening to us and continuing to listen to us, and anyone who has shared us. Thank you very much. We enjoy doing this, and we enjoy talking to you guys.
Thank you, everybody. Love you.
Love you guys. Goodbye. Fade away.
Infinity War is going to be the greatest movie of all time.
I've never been so excited for anyone.
Talking about video games.
Collin, do you want to fade out with us?